Now we're on the computer. Now we're on the board. So that's two things that are working.
Recorded.
So it's always going to be working. But then this thing, I don't know. Let's kill their Wi-Fi.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, here we go. Preparing.
It says live.
Now streaming. No one's there, though. I have to tell them on Twitter. But let's see what happens. Before we had trouble connecting to YouTube. So, and then this thing hasn't worked for weeks. But may have just worked.
Oh, is this magic?
We've got the chat.
As if a YouTube live stream works on the first time.
I think
that is a impossibility.
I think it's professional. Yeah. Hey, look, it's an echo. It's us. It's us in the past.
It works.
All right.
How long do you guys want to go for?
Till the end of time.
About 8 hours.
8 hours.
We run out of tape. Yeah.
We have our talk is in 1 hour. So
yeah.
like,
so we'll probably
perfect. So
anything under like a half an hour is like probably the most.
Well, no, you're just gonna skip the talk.
Yeah.
Because
people say skip the talk.
We're gonna just address the whole world.
Yeah.
Why address 50 people? If you
Exactly.
And we're mass communicating here. We're not one at a time in it. There's a man in there who will pay you to sing into a can. It's true.
I thought we were against.
Is that a "Oh Father, oh Brother, Where Art Thou"?
Oh,
yeah.
What a good
brother,
movie.
Where art thou, man? Some
What a
good
good
stuff.
movie.
Singing to the King.
Yeah.
Man, you got some sick laptop stickers, dude.
Yeah,
For
those
sure.
are Shepherd Ferry, Obey the Giant guy.
Okay.
I bought like a sticker pack, and then I just went for it.
Nice.
So
This is all this is socialist semiotics, though.
it's the most powerful way of speaking.
It's
Yeah.
yes,
This is the archetype of the divine feminine.
No, dude. This is a like DSA advertisement. This is that classic.
Definitely propaganda. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the what is this? It's like the Planned Parenthood font from the '60s and stuff like that. Like Roe v. Wade.
It does look kind of like Soviet
Parenthood
advertising.
font.
Yeah, it's like it's the Roe v. Wade font.
I don't know. I do like these circles though.
Oh yeah,
you really have some Urbit aesthetics.
no,
going on.
they even have the Lou the Giant. Obey.
Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant.
I'm 1,000 years old.
Andre the Giant. The Obey in there.
I remember when he was a person.
Dude, this is like
your proof of birth on the blockchain?
Andre the Giant once drank he used to drink beer by the case. He used to drink whiskey by the fifth.
Yeah.
He was a big man.
Big man.
And that's why the internet loves him so much for his giantness.
I mean the whole Banksy thing is.
I don't know, man. Banksy came out against Epstein.
Banksy,
I gained respect for
sure,
Banksy again.
sure,
When he did that, man.
sure.
I
I don't know,
really
but
did.
everyone knows
But
now.
like who's in favor of Epstein? Justin
I-
Murphy. Justin Murphy is. Justin Murphy.
All right, so we're still warming it up. Everyone in the chat needs to give us a thumbs up. We can't even think about starting the show till we have 10 thumbs up.
Give us a thumbs up.
Also, I'm getting out there
please.
to retweet the tweet. Everyone should go to @WorldCryptoNet
Please, hit
and
us with
retweet the
thumbs.
tweet. This is the only tweet we'll do all day. It's the only link.
One and only.
This is the only link. We're never going to
That
break
is
it.
it.
We're
Not
right
making
here.
Non-stop.
We're in the coat room. We have a wide supply of T-shirts available,
Lots of
including
t-shirts.
bright pink. I'm surprised you guys didn't go with bright pink this morning.
Well, the bright pink is only for the volunteers who got
something
abducted
happens
into
later,
servitude.
to the volunteers wearing the pink. So let's check out the chat. Chat, can you hear us? Is it working? Okay, no response.
Bright pink is a color of breast cancer awareness. I feel like if Michael Bitstein were here, he would say, breast cancer, Bitcoin fixes this.
How though?
How does Bitcoin fix breast cancer? In the chat, please. We'd love to hear from you. How does Bitcoin fix breast cancer?
All right, they've
So,
confirmed they can hear us.
Of course, it is a question of time preference, as always. So if you have lower time preference, this means that he will play with boobies much more. And thus, you will find the little nuggets in there, right? And then it's early prevention to then fix it.
Yeah, there you go.
I suppose Bitcoin also incentivizes people to save money, which generally causes people to get married more and have more family structures. So I figure if these people are getting married and having stable homes, they're probably going to the doctor when they need to.
Oh, there you go.
It sounds like a European perspective, someone that has healthcare over there.
This is a new idea to Berlin.
Doctors.
Families.
Reproduction rate over 1.
Positive reproduction rate.
So we didn't even yet properly introduce you. We're joined by, of course, the Bitcoin Sign Guy and Logan Ellen. How are you two?
Doing well, man. Yesterday I was kind of jet lagged. We flew in from San Francisco, but
That's a long way
today
off.
feeling great.
Feeling good.
Fantastic.
Ready to chop up the flows.
Mixing the beats.
Speaking of mixing, well, somewhat, when you have galaxies and star systems and planets, are you mixing that?
Are you mixing?
Are you mixing it?
What?
It all?
I think, like, are you coin joining your Urbit identities?
Probably. Is there coin joins on Urbit?
There are not coin joins on Urbit.
Then we should make that happen.
But there are also not coin joins on Urbit.
You see? So what the hell is Urbit?
Urbit is an operating system designed for personal server computing. So the fundamental insight of Urbit is that it's kind of strange that we don't have personal servers already.
Yep.
In the 1980s, the personal computer was such a strange idea to everyone. What do you mean computers won't just be mainframes that large institutions use? And then we got these like amazingly powerful MacBooks and these really powerful iPhones that are more powerful than most game consoles of last decade. And yet they feel so constrained by the fact that they're still mostly used as web clients to still these very large Linux mainframes. It's kind of strange, really. And so the idea of Urbit is that that's actually a technical problem because Linux is very, very complex. Linux has gotten us really far, but Linux is 50 million lines of code. Just the kernel alone.
What did Linux mean by this?
What did Linux mean by this?
Why did he do it like that?
Why did he do this?
Why did he fuck up? Did he fuck up?
He did not fuck up because at the time, 50 years ago, when it was made, it was really innovative and it really got us to where we are today. But now we know what we want out of computers. And we know that we want to be in socially connected networks where everyone has autonomy and owns their own data and owns their own code. And so what Urbit does is Urbit is an operating system, a network, and an identity system that's meant to be a single bundled solution to the problems of more or less the fundamental problems that stop people from being able to have a personal server.
So one thing that we really like about Bitcoin is that it awoke the consciousness that people need their own servers. Like your Bitcoin node is your Bitcoin blockchain server that also verifies your transactions. And so we're grateful to Bitcoin that it's now in many ways the impetus for the migration back towards operating your own server.
Yeah, if you want to have a private key that holds all your money, don't you want a private key that secures all of your data that you put onto the internet and who you allow to have access to it? Why do you put all of your tweets on Twitter and then they get to decide who gets to access it? You can have these privacy settings, but you can't stop Twitter from accessing your tweets.
Yeah, exactly, right? And it's not just controlling your own keys, right? Controlling the software that you use. It's also about controlling the hardware, right? And so having this your own dedicated financial and informational battle station where you actually do all these computations on your own is very powerful. So how does Urbit work with specifically like user grade hardware?
Sure. So currently Urbit requires at least 4 gigabytes of RAM. Because we're a single level store. And so we map 2 gigabytes of RAM when we first start up. But currently you can run Urbit as a virtual machine on Mac or Linux. Yeah, and so you can just run it on your normal computer. I think eventually people will likely want to run it on boxes like a Nodal or a Casa Hodl, or to have a hosting company provide hosting for them, kind of like a custodied solution as an interim.
Yeah.
But yes, the fundamental insight there is that we're just moving towards you taking the effort to maintain your own server. It's something that very few people do for very few of their services. So it's one big tell I always think is that we're here at a Bitcoin conference. You have all these sovereignty minded people who also are quite technically capable. And I would say half of them have Gmails. You don't, because you're a champ, but it's telling that there's the incentive to want to hold all this stuff, but what's keeping us from getting there? So I think Urbit has a very good answer to that question,
which is that it's just really hard.
Yeah.
So how does Urbit make it easier from a user perspective, right?
Sure. So Urbit makes it easier from a user perspective by being simple itself from a technical perspective. Because Urbit was starting from the ground up and has a completely new kernel, completely new computing stack, Urbit is just many, many fewer lines of code. It's 3 orders of magnitude smaller than the Linux kernel. And the idea is more or less that if you are technically simple, then and you are functional, which Urbit is entirely functional, the entire operating system, then the operating system is completely deterministic and predictable to the user. And so if it's predictable, then they don't have to do as much operations or maintenance on it. And being functional also provides very, very large security guarantees, as opposed to working with untyped byte streams in C and memory pointers, where it's very easy to have like memory leaks that can then be exploited to cause some issue or another. And when you have as many lines of code as you do in Linux, you really need trained professionals if you want to operate any large-scale platform. You really can't operate any service whatsoever without a $10 million per year security budget if you're being prudent. But with Urbit, individual developers will be able to provide complete solutions to their users, ship them some code, the user runs it on their machine securely and owns all of their own data.
So what kind of services are you starting with? Email, things like that?
So right now we just have chat and blogging.
Okay.
Next, we're going to do like contacts.
All right.
And an ability for you to have like groups of people that you can share between applications. Mm-hmm. And then right after that, we're doing decentralized microblogging.
So like Twitter, right?
Yeah, like Twitter.
Yeah. And then also we're doing ways to remotely control your Bitcoin node, keep your Bitcoin keys, and then a way to automate your Lightning node as well. So our thesis there is that Bitcoin is sound money and it deserves a sound computer. And ultimately, for all these applications that are peer-to-peer, we want to make money be a very low-level primitive available to the developers of these applications.
Yeah.
And so we're doing the work now to begin putting that tooling onto Urbit.
So if someone made a really good micro-blogging app, I'd be able to maybe pay them a little bit for the app, or maybe then Bitcoin would get into the app or Lightning Network, and they would be able to give little payments to people. The idea that the kind of people who are going to buy this server are the same kind of people who would have the nodal or the Samurai nodal, or they'd be running their own server. So you're starting at that level.
Yeah, exactly.
And that there will be useful developer libraries so that you don't need to be a huge company to be able to afford putting all that together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a great meme on Docker lately, and it was the kid crying, holding the guy, and he's like, "It only works on my computer." Then we'll ship your computer.
Yeah.
This is how Docker was born. So I do think it's a similar idea where they kind of subscribe to services. Like I want to add microblogging service, or I want to add email, or maybe music, or these kind of things, and then hosting it locally. It's funny, I read Bill Gates's book, The Road Ahead, like forever ago in the 90s when it came out. And he was always talking about that server in the basement and how great it was going to be.
Yeah.
And eventually I couldn't stand it because I didn't have a server in the basement. I had one computer, and that was the only one I had. And if my hard drive died, it was the end of the world. And it wasn't this era of like cheap hardware and cheap hard drives. And just anyone can really have terabytes and terabytes of information in their basement. And there's tons of free things they could download, Gutenberg, backup libraries, all these things, but they don't. And I don't know why. I mean, part of it, I think, as an old person, I'm tired of IT. I'm tired of like running things.
Yeah.
Like every new box I add to the system is another manual not to read, screen to read quickly and skim and figure out how to turn it off and on. And then again, security is a whole level beyond that. So how are you going to push back on that idea? What's better about this box? This idea?
So the fact that it's simpler and entirely functional really, really gives a lot to the user. Maybe not like right in the very beginning if they're trying to like run it on their virtual machine or on their computer or something. But in terms of maintenance, it really, really helps. So Urbit's programming language was designed to be able to compile itself so that it can distribute, so that you can have over-the-air updates distributed directly to users, and the computer never stops running while it's updating itself. So the entire kernel upgrades itself and is never stopping running during that process. So no rebooting, nothing.
So it does no longer work to turn it off and on again?
It doesn't work to turn it on and off.
Shit. Classic me. Nobody will know how to troubleshoot Urbit.
Yeah. If you break it, you really broke it.
So we really just got to have no problems.
No problems whatsoever.
No pressure at all. Yeah, piece of cake.
Just write perfect code. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the mantra within the company. It's just like, don't write bugs.
Yeah, that always works.
So what I was surprised by, and you told me that yesterday, that the project has been going on for a long while already, like 2002, right? So what was the history there? What was the development so far?
Sure. So we had this like crazy founder guy, you know, like big bushy hair, the whole deal.
Mad scientist, for sure.
Was he a MadBitcoins too?
He was super into Bitcoin. That's right.
Yeah, mad scientists are the best kind of mad.
Yeah, so it really did take an iconoclastic mindset to want to even attempt to reimagine Unix.
What about Knock?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the project has been around for a while, and it's also taken us a long time to appreciate, you know, what we want to do with our personal computer. That's sort of why Urbit couldn't have existed from the get-go. That we had to. It's almost like working from the image of, well, what do you want to do with your personal computer? What are the things that you would want to serve, you know, host on your server? And so now we feel like Bitcoin is sort of the capstone of those services. It finally consummates, you know, your full life. You know, the locus of control of your life is now really all virtual. Like the conversations that you have now, the money that you own, your property, etc. It's all in a virtual environment now, and we think that we're finally ready to sort of have a system that reifies that and appreciates it, and makes it also usable.
In terms of why it took so long, it's mostly because one guy was just doing it in his free time in between like going surfing at the beach and like hanging out with his wife for, I don't know, like 10 years of the project. So he like, I don't know, did some like really big brained thinking, I guess, like came up with a new functional assembly language. I think he was just like kind of idly doing that for like 8 years. So it's like the project has been going on for a long time, but like, I don't know. I really think it personally, I really think it got started in like 2014. Like, cause that's around the time where we actually had like a real working prototype. And then 2016 is when it really became a company and like raised funding and started to have a larger team. And then by 2018, that's when really the steam was rolling. And now we're just, you know, kind of getting to the point where we're actually stable enough that we can be marketing to consumers.
Ah, fantastic. And so you were doing airdrops of some crazy words.
Oh, right.
What are these?
Yeah. So
what are they used for?
If you're watching this and you're also at the conference, I was giving out these little cards that have a key on the back that you can use on our website to redeem for an Urbit operating system. Well, I won't give out that one because someone might take it. But
I shouldn't give out this one either because there's a camera.
Yeah, there you go. So essentially, this key lets you download your Urbit operating system and get up on the network.
Yeah, it's a unique ID. that specifies your network address on the network. So unlike IP, where your network address is transient, it changes based on your location. In Urbit, a virtual computer has a single network address that doesn't change.
And why is that useful? Why is that good to have a static pseudonymous account?
Sure. So we really think it's useful because in a world where computing is central to your life, you really want something that's kind of like a phone number that doesn't change, but that doesn't expose any of your personal information, that can accumulate reputation without you having to like give someone your driver's license and them like run your credit score. And like, I don't know. I mean, having some separation between your like government ID and your online life seems kind of prudent.
I'm hearing a lot of this lately. I went to Jameson Lopp's talk last night, and it was a secret talk amongst storage containers, and I was wearing a mask, and no one knew who I was. I was very undercover, wearing the same hat that I'm wearing now. So it would be impossible to track me down. But he was talking a lot about that, and it's also been coming up in this great Neil Stephenson book I'm reading, Fall. And one of the things they have in there is a PERDA, and it's like an identity, and the H stands for holography. So it starts out like you two could create a company. You could publish all this code, and that company, that thing, would get reputation. Then somewhere along the line, you'd want a job, and you'd use that thing to apply for a job because only that thing can sign the code to show that it's really the thing. So whatever it was, a bunch of writing, a bunch of code, a bunch of pictures, whatever it is, it's linked to that identity. And then the great thing about it is the holography, the computer would, at first it was using facial features, it was using things that we understood, but then they fed it into the AI, into the AI, into the AI, and now they don't even know what the thing's using to identify you, like walking around or the way you blink or the movement or your heartbeat or something. And what's so great is the book's a little bit about a digital afterworld. And this one girl, she has the magic token. She gets to the digital afterworld. The computer can still recognize her through the scanned brain. She still has the magic token. She has the access.
Wow.
So
Very
it's a
cool.
pretty cool idea of like
That's cool.
holography and these multiple identities. So I think
Very
you
cool.
guys are on the
I
way
love Neil
there.
Stephenson.
Well,
Yeah,
the-
he's
the-
killing it. Yeah.
In fact, at the last Bitcoin conference I went to, the Urbit card that I was handing out was actually a reference to Neil Stephenson. It was the snow crash reference.
Nice. I love Snow
you know,
Crash. Yeah.
The hyper card, and I actually, if you find me, and you can even, I even have a holographic version of this card for super special cypherpunks out there.
Nice. Yeah, it's getting pretty exciting out there. So yeah, more and more things. And then Jameson was going through all these things and really finding it difficult to get privacy. But as we get more tools and things like this, we'll actually maybe get there or halfway there.
Yeah.
We just really need infrastructure so that social structures and communities can then go build on that infrastructure. And so Urbit is really just trying to be neutral infrastructure for everyone, anyone who wants to use it. That's
What I really like is people are interested in it now. Like a long time ago, we tried to do encryption and privacy and warned people about Facebook. You're giving up your data. You're giving up your data. Everyone said, "Oh, we don't care. We don't care at all."
Right. Well, I think now Bitcoin, like I said earlier, Bitcoin is what has awoken people to this fact, is that, oh shoot, you're the home of your sovereignty is now on a digital device. It's no longer your physical person even. And we think that in many ways the virtual has subsumed the real.
So you're saying Bitcoin fixes this?
I'm saying that
Bitcoin fixed this already.
I'm saying that I would say it's even more than that. It's Bitcoin consummated our migration into the digital
Cyberspace.
ether. Yeah.
Bitcoin stated the problem.
And it made people appreciate that, look, we live in a world overcome by symbols and images, and now you will have to guard these symbols and images with the same degree of seriousness that you once carried a gun to defend your person or something like that.
I really think a lot about my interactions with Uber drivers when I think about privacy and what normal people care about. I talk to a lot of my Uber drivers about Urbit. I think my favorite thing about it is that they all get it and they all love it. Like I see all these people talking on the internet, like, I don't understand Urbit, or Urbit's so complicated. And I'm just like, man, like somebody just needs to sit you down and explain it to you.
Like, explain it, like explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm an Uber driver.
Dude, Uber drivers are smart. They totally care about their autonomy. They already have control over their work hours. They really directly experience the fact that a platform is controlling a lot of the way that they spend their time and their livelihood, and they totally get it. So what I always tell them is, I say, when you want to send me a message on Facebook, what you're actually doing is you're sending Facebook the message. Facebook reads the message, then Facebook sends me the message. And
if it deems that the message should not be censored. I've sent Facebook messages that have a links to wrong think in them, and Facebook Messenger will not send certain links.
That's wild.
Anyway,
and so what I say is, but people intuitively think that when I'm sending you a message, I just send you the message directly, because that's kind of how you think it would work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how people wanted the computers to work in the first place. So they're always like, well, why doesn't the computer work like that? And I'm like, look, it's complicated, but if you're using Urbit, it actually does work like that. When I send you a message, I send you a message. It's end-to-end encrypted. Only you can read it.
Well, it's mainly about advertising, right? If they didn't have the centralized server, they couldn't track you. If they couldn't track you, they can't properly sell you advertisements.
And
so.
They get 99% of their revenue from that.
Yeah,
what would
and
they
then
do?
anyone else can listen into that advertising channel, get all your information, just accidentally run psychological studies on you, all kinds of fun things.
to be observed is to be controlled.
Oh, getting dark early.
Wow.
Ooh.
You need some more coffee, Christian.
Some
We
more
need coffee at all.
Oh.
I did not have. Well, I had
Conference
a cup of
without coffee.
Please send coffee.
Send coffee
Much
And how are we even like communicating?
and
about
food.
coffee?
Coffee and
Actually,
food and
impossible.
anything.
Yeah.
We took over the media room here,
We
once again
need
surrounded by.
coffee as much as Hong Kong needs AR-15s.
Oh, no, that'd be not good. China has tanks. So tanks trump any hand weapon. So except for the hand cannon. You guys heard about this?
The hand
No.
cannon.
Both here in Berlin at the German Historical Museum or in London at the British Museum, you can see a hand cannon, which is a grenade launcher from the 16th century. That
What?
means 1594. So it has every kind of detail you would expect from a grenade launcher from 1594. It has etchings on the
Beautiful
barrel,
scrollwork.
full base, has like little ivory figures cut into it. Even on the hammer that pulls back to launch your personal handheld grenade launcher from the 16th century, even the hammer has incredible detail.
You got to go down a gun engraving YouTube rabbit hole.
Oh,
It's a really great.
Yeah,
we all have a favorite corner of YouTube, but the gun engravers and inlayers, they do fantastic.
It's a
work,
rabbit
man.
hole. And you see, back then, that was under the gold standard. They actually gave a shit about the tools that they built.
Absolutely.
And they
It
actually
built them
made
to
them
last.
delightful.
It definitely
So
still
there it
works.
is. That's a hand cannon.
So cool.
If you scroll around, I've got close-ups too.
That is incredible.
But yeah, it's when you see that, and again in the British Museum, it's kind of like underneath some dishes. They don't really care that much. Here they put it at least with a couple other weapons. It has a like violent
awesome.
kind of angle to it. Here, let's do the
Yeah.
close-ups
Yeah,
so
that's so
people at home
pretty.
could see.
Man.
Again, you got to go to these museums. Like part
Beautiful
of this
objects.
travel is you have to get out of the conference. You have to have an extra day or something to. Oh yeah, those are those dueling pistols with the ivory handles.
That's so sick.
Which again, you just gotta, if you're gonna kill somebody, you want to do it in a classy manner, and
Exactly.
especially this thing. I don't really know.
Just think if you have this here, like pointing at you as the last thing you see.
Oh,
That is very
Last thing
delightful.
you
And-
Like,
and again,
you cannot
we-
even be mad about being like shot with.
And
them
I just
grenades.
need to
I'd
know.
be kind of mad, honestly.
I just want to know everything about this thing now. Like, does it fire a shell? Does it fire like a bunch of junk? Is it like a spread weapon?
I was just thinking about like those like cartoon bombs that have the fuse. Or whatever.
Yeah, you could
I mean,
shove
one
this
of
in there.
those,
This is,
yeah.
I mean, dynamite with the trail coming out.
Exactly.
Yeah, it'd be perfect.
That
Do you
would
know-
be a
do-
big stick of dynamite.
Do you know the etymology of the grenade?
What is it?
It's named after the pomegranate.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Oh,
not the other way
grenadine.
around.
Yeah.
Grenadine. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
no, not
Grenadine,
not
yeah.
the other way around. By the way.
So they just started throwing
Well,
pomegranates.
when
and they're like, "Ooh."
when the grenade fragments, there's a million little flecks of
Seeds.
shrapnel, like the seeds of a pomegranate.
Oh, so it's the shrapnel,
Yeah,
not even
yeah.
the
That's
outside
arcane.
shape.
Yeah. So we, this is to say that we have these new technological weapons, but we also must appreciate the weapons of old and pay homage to to all smiths of all weaponry of all forms.
Well, and the word is the thing. It's a lot like
Yeah.
Ready Player One. They had the holy hand grenade from Monty Python, and it's like, just again layers of culture and layers of decades, and like there are some old movies worth seeing.
In fact,
I would say
most of the movies worth seeing.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
It's almost like the movies that we make today are just
Fiat culture.
Fiat culture.
fiat culture.
It
It's
is
so
pretty
bad.
exemplified.
Bitcoin
Yeah.
fixes this.
Fiat
Sequels and
culture.
remakes, right? Yeah.
Oh man,
Superheroes defying the laws of physics, and
this is
I don't know, man.
you're wearing a reference to Star Wars. Star Wars has unfortunately become fiat culture.
Star
man.
Now
Wars
it's fortunate. I have a new way for you.
Soy Wars, dude. Soy Wars.
Join me as a Star Wars maximalist. There are only 3 films. They were never edited. They were never remade. There's no new graphics. They're 3 old films. I watched them on videotape.
Make Star Wars great again.
That's it. Done. No more other things. Like it's over. So
Wow.
Man.
yeah. Join me.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna have to fork it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to.
What are you including?
There are
Like
6 films.
Rogue One? Do you
There
like
are
Rogue
6
One?
There are 6 films, and there were never any more films. There were never any remakes, and Han shot first.
Well, Han definitely shot first, but you're saying like are there prequels or are there post films?
The films were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Oh,
But
come
it
on.
started
1,
with 4,
2.
5, and 6.
1, 2, 3 don't exist.
No.
I've never heard of that.
You've
Never heard of
those
Jar
numbers?
Jar. From the very scroll, I remember seeing it in the theaters. Oh, there's a trade dispute. Who cares about a trade dispute?
Trade dispute.
Yeah. Doesn't matter at all.
No. So
So before you
So-
guys leave to go do your talk, the internet says I have to ask you about the Bitcoin sign.
Oh,
So,
Yeah. well,
so one day you were working at, I don't know, a congressional office, something like that?
I was working at a free market think tank in Washington, D.C.,
Cool.
and I was sent to cover the Federal Reserve's testimony.
Amazing. Janet Yellen.
Janet
Yeah.
Yellen, yeah.
you yell at her?
And I in a previous life I had worked at a hedge fund covering central bank testimony.
Nice.
So I knew how boring and dry the talks always were.
Yeah.
And I knew that my old coworkers were probably watching.
Yeah.
So it was really just like a little tip of my hat to them and
Nice.
something that I wanted to take a screenshot of after the fact and just keep as a memento.
So you thought it'd be a small thing.
I thought it would be only that tiny thing. But then
who else watches this? Right?
No one else watches
Well,
Janet Yellen. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, just
like
your coworkers.
it's a very small community in finance that really, like all of finance, but
Sure,
finance
sure.
itself is a small community and nobody reads financial news otherwise.
Well, there's a lot of jargon to intentionally keep
Yeah,
people away.
exactly.
So as long as you layer it
They
in
keep
3 layers of jargon.
Alan Greenspan was he was trying to keep the normies out by burying the Federal Reserve's intention under just layers of he was overcoating the flows, as we say. So what the sign turned into was far beyond what I intended. But I'm glad that Bitcoiners got a kick out of it.
So you're accepting of it. You like to be. What's it like to be a meme and an icon? Like,
oh geez,
it's
I mean,
strange, huh?
I don't know. I don't know if I could accept the term icon. Maybe meme. I love memes, and I think of memes as almost the formal language, especially in digital spaces.
Yeah.
And that was actually my college thesis. I was a studio art major I also did an econ thesis on Bitcoin, but but I had a meme museum, that was
Awesome,
the point of it. That was, memes are just visual languages that cultures use to transact. And so I guess I can explain after the fact why the sign worked, because it was a tight image. But if the camera wasn't on, I guess, I mean, it was random that I was given that seat and that I had sort of the opportunity to go there. So,
And especially the lower third, right? That perfectly had the headline.
the ticker was good. The ticker was good. Yeah. Once again, just you know, God's grace that it turned out like that.
Yeah, a friend of mine has it like painted up on canvas and stretched on the wall, and has
Oh,
it
amazing.
huge in his apartment in Puerto Rico. So
Amazing.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's out
Yeah.
there, and just the leveling. I've seen it like, you know, cut in front of every other person, and you just Photoshop it out. and-
Well, thank you for the memes. I
Yeah.
truly appreciate it.
yeah, I think it's really great. It's fun stuff. So just had to ask you.
Good memes.
Yeah.
Quality memes.
Yes. So if there would be one sentence to sum up Urbit, what is it?
Urbit is your new personal server.
And where can people learn more about it?
Urbit.org.
All right, you have Twitter, Facebook, all the things.
Twitter has an Urbit. We don't use the other fiat forms of social media.
Oh, only the
Oh.
Twitter.
If I had a sentence in speaking specifically to the Bitcoin community, is that sound money deserves a sound computer. You know, we have this new highly valuable form of digital property that we want to keep safe and use in a responsible manner, and also a user-friendly manner, a way that keeps people from falling back into centralized services like the cloud web, and we want to keep it decentralized. So that's my sentence.
Great.
All right, very cool. Well, I
Awesome.
gotta
Well,
take
thank
a
you.
picture with you
Thank
guys.
you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Yeah, let's get in here.
Let's get it up cozy. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah,
here
thank
for
you, guys.
Bitcoin Sign Guy and logo.
Thank
Yeah,
you
nice
guys.
meeting you, Max.
Fantastic. Keep up the good work. I'm looking forward to watch the
Thank you.
recording of your talk. Hopefully hosted on your own Orbit.
Oh yeah,
server.
exactly. Without the help of YouTube's gazillion-dollar
Shittiness.
budget. Oh yes. All right. Au revoir. Godspeed.
Bye bye.